What's going on, everyone, and thanks for tuning back in. So, been working diligently since the last couple videos that I shot, and I'm a little dirty today. Had to get up in here in the garage and actually put some stuff up in the top. Just folded some cardboard up and cut it out so that we could kind of mask some of the heat going out. Still got to do the back of it, but if you guys will take a look here, finally got the other light up here in the garage, so now we have light. So we're going to be messing around with the Scrambler today. And a nice little fire going. Keep it a little warm in here. And we'll get you guys set up so you guys can tune along with us and kind of watch the sped up process of everything. But basically we're pulling the air box today. There's only three things that hold this on. There's bolt here, and then a flathead bolt that goes around the bottom boot that holds it to the carburetor. So we'll get all those loosened up, taken out, and pull this air box off, and then we'll work on getting the carburetor taken apart as well. I am going to take the makeshift bolts here I've got until the new bolt kit comes in, so that we can slide the plastics back a little bit. It makes it a little bit easier to get the air box off. Plus, we're going to be working on, I'll have to get a flashlight up under here. There we go. So that starter solenoid beside the battery, I'll take the battery off. There is, I believe it's a Torx 25 that's on the inside of the battery mount, and then I believe those are 10mm wing nut, or nuts right there. So I'm gonna get that starter solenoid off, get the new one on, because basically when you turn the key on, it turns to the on position. That's the fan right there, because I got the fan hardwired to come on any time. And you push up on the ignition, you can hear that. All it does is click. So usually starts with the starter solenoid there, because the battery's in great shape, it's fully charged. So I'll mess around with that, see if we can get the starter solenoid replaced, see if we can get that clicking to go away and it actually start turning over on its own, and we'll keep working from there. Biggest reason we need to get the carburetor off today though is because the carburetor's flooding out. So I'm guessing the jet kit that I put in there is either too much, but or really I'm unsure, but I need to get a new fuel filter today. Forgot to pick one up at the dealership when I went and took the Can-Am up there. So we'll get that off. The throttle cable up here, we have our tool and our lubricant. We are going to go ahead and pull the throttle cable out of the carburetor, so that way we can lube our cable up, because it's like sticking. As you guys can see, that you can almost hear it opening up and you have to push it back. So we're gonna see if we can't lubricate that up, see if we can get that working back like it should, and come back and revisit. So stay tuned, guys. Alrighty guys, there's the air box. And again, that gives us access to the carburetor here. End up removing the fuel line, choke here, and then throttle. And then there is a screw right there. There's better lighting. So that screw right in there on that boot as well. That boot will stay attached to where the reeds are, and then the carburetor should slide right out. Now there is a little bit of a catch down there that holds the vibration of the carburetor in place. Black boot right here. So just be mindful of that as you're trying to wiggle it out, because that bottom nut for the overflow does sit on that, or like kind of in its catty corner. So hang tight and we'll get to that here shortly. Alrighty guys, we got the fuel line unhooked from the carburetor, and just because I can like burn all that stuff whenever I get done, Got that sitting up under there. Make sure you have something under there to catch the fuel, which this one, we ran it long enough to kind of drain the fuel out of the filter and out of the line, which there's 2 shutoff valves, which I'll show you in just a moment for this one. But this fuel line I had to cut, and it's still not like syncing up correctly with the nipple here on the carburetor because it's still leaking. So what I did is went and got some more quality fuel line here that's the same diameter, and when we go to put it on later, you'll see that it goes on there pretty snug, and then we'll be able to trace our fuel and kind of see where we're at. And it also came with new fasteners here, so that's pretty nice. And then this one I believe is 3 feet if I'm correct, so it'll be enough to replace the fuel line coming from this shutoff valve that runs back there, that runs to the fuel filter. As you can see, it's pretty done for, and there's another shutoff, and then that back line right there runs to the carburetor. So we're going to end up replacing all of that as well, just to get new lines, good connection. We'll be able to blow out the shutoff valves as we go through as well. Again, on this one, we didn't get new springs on the exhaust, but we did do that donut gasket already, thankfully. But again, she ain't perfect, but she does run good when she runs great. And again, we'll also be working on some of these plastics today to try and get whatever this mess is off of there. Probably work with enough epoxy here to kind of just patch this, just so it'll be all smooth again if we can get it warm enough in here, and go from there. Alrighty guys, there we are. So your choke cable, I believe, is a 12 millimeter. If it doesn't come out easily, just be patient with it. You can definitely spray it with something that's not too strong, maybe some WD-40 if it's gunked up with dirt, because dirt will get stuff to seize up. And then on your throttle right there, as you're screwing it off the top, if your model's designed like this, be very careful with it, especially if you have to use like channel locks, because I mean it will crack, and then it's a pain to replace that. And if it doesn't seem like it's coming, but it's just twisting, be patient with it. Those threads are so tiny right there, it will eventually come out. And then for now, we are going to set this to the side. We're still waiting on the other rebuild kit to come to rebuild it once more, see what we can do with it. And also we're going to work on that throttle cable, and then work on replacing the fuel lines. May hold off on the fuel lines until we can find out if we can get another fuel filter today, and then we'll pick back up from there on the fuel side of things, and then we'll go ahead and work on the starter solenoid now. Alrighty guys, we're back with the throttle cable. Got the cover off over here on the thumb throttle. Cover does usually have a gasket in there. This one's pretty well worn, but basically it's got little pry points right there that you can see. You just pry them off one at a time easily and lift up as you work your way around it with a flathead screwdriver, and it comes right out. Already got the throttle cable disconnected from the thumb throttle. You just take a flathead or whatever you can get up in there and lift it out real easy. It pops off and you push this out of your way. This one here has 2 clips where it goes into the housing. Basically you push those clips in as you hold on to the cable from the outside, push one side and angle it, and push the other side, and it's going to slide right out. So we'll get that. We have our tool here that is going to help us with that cable lubing. Basically the cable goes into it, you tighten those bolts down, and then it's got an opening here where you spray the lube in. So we'll get that done and touch back here. Alright guys, here's where we're at. I've been doing a lot here. We got the old starter solenoid off, new one here ready to go on. They didn't give us any new washers to put behind the nuts that are going on there. So I'm going to use the new nuts, but I had to take the old washers and grind them off with a drill grinding wheel. And as far as the cable goes, we're going to let it sit a little longer, but she's definitely in better shape than she was. However, it's not going to be perfect. There's still a lot of play in here. What reason that is if you actually take this screw out, these two pieces here, there's actually two pieces that interact with one another, and then the thumb throttle goes up through here. It's got a shaft on there, and in that shaft is grooves to where it sets in to this mechanism, and they kind of come together, and then this screw goes in there. Problem is, over time, is those grooves kind of wear out on both pieces just from friction. Again, 22 years old, it's going to do that. But at least we got some spring-loaded action, and that's with, you can kind of see it down there on the thumb throttle, but I've got it stuck out of the way so we don't damage the needle. But it's definitely reacting a lot better. We're going to let it sit for a few days before we put it all back together, of course. Let that lubricant kind of work its way down into the line, because it goes all the way down in there and loops back around. And then we also got the fuel filter off, so it wasn't even clamped on this side, so we can mock up everything we need to cut off of the new line back there. And then I'm going to go see a friend of mine here, see if he's got any of these in stock or something similar to that size. So definitely stay tuned. After that, I believe I would like to get started on removing some of what's left on the decals, and I'll show you guys the kit that we're using to redo the plastics. However, I do have some of the green scrub brushes that you normally use on like dishes, things like that I really want to take here because it's more abrasive. See if I can get all this black off, get it smoothed out really well under the seat, and then we'll touch base back and see how that's coming along. So stay tuned. Alrighty guys, so we're back on the floor. Went ahead and tore into the carb, and this is crazy. So I was like, why is the carb just overloading, and when you really want to ride it hard, it just like it floods, or it's not getting enough fuel? I couldn't tell. I was wondering why everything was the way it was, because I pulled the main jet out and it was exactly the same. It was a 250, right? But check this out, or it might be the primary, but pretty sure this is main, right? Leave a comment, correct me. And then primary here, if that's correct. But I want you guys, if I can set these up side by side. So this is the original one that came out of it before, right? And this is the one that they sent me to rebuild. You can clearly tell the difference between the two. I mean, there's no comparison. So I actually took the original one that came in it, cleaned it up really well. I cleaned the inside of it, cleaned it out with carbon choke cleaner. So we're actually going to reinstall this one, reinstall the float guide pin, and put it all back together and run it this way. Even if the rebuild kit comes, we'll pull it back apart, no big deal. And I know that I should be using a new gasket. Maybe we should dry this one out a little bit better. But all in all, we're going to go ahead and put this one back together and see how she runs from there, and see if we've got a little bit better control of the throttle. And then we'll be able to move on to plastics and find out why in the world the starting solenoid isn't engaging. So stay tuned, and we'll be back. What's happening, everyone, and thanks for tuning back in. It is a new day, and appreciate you staying in the loop here with what we're doing with the Scrambler. But had to come up here this morning and get some spray and insulation in this building here, because man, heat was escaping like crazy. So plastic panel here is the front part that goes on the Scrambler here. We actually sanded it down, starting with a 220 and worked our way up to 800, and then used the clear in the product that we'll go over here today, the clear white that goes over it. And it came out okay, but it looks like either we're gonna have to repaint these plastics, or whoever is the future owner may have to repaint them. But we're still gonna do our best to kind of get all the plastics cleared up, even though they'll stay pink. you know, just from sun wear over the last 2 decades. We actually found the fuel filter that we need. It was actually a Briggs & Stratton fuel filter, ironically. And so I went to a couple different off-road shops and on-road shops, people that I know that deal with aftermarket parts, and nothing in their catalog allowed them to order it. And ironically, we found it through Lowe's, but went to Lowe's and it was the wrong part even after we had them pull it off the top shelf. So we got the new fuel filter coming today. Actually, I have 2 coming in a 2-pack. So definitely stay tuned here. Got a few things to get going, and let's get it.